Okay, can you join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge of
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, I call this meeting of the Crook County Planning Commissioners to order. Today's date is January 14th, 2026. Time is 4:00. First order of business tonight is the yearly election for chair and vice chair. Would anyone like to make a motion to elect a commissioner for chair?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion that we elect Mike Warren as Chair of the Planning Commission for 2026.
Okay, Mike Warren is respectfully declining to continue as chair.
Can you do that?
I can. Reason being, just my term ends the end of this year and I wouldn't want to end my term and chair it at the same time. That makes sense.
Okay,
Even if it doesn't make sense, that's my logic. So would anybody?
I'd like to make a motion that Hunter Newharth be the chair.
second,
Any other discussion?
I guess I'll accept.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
aye.
We don't have any, we're full, right? Okay. Okay, vice chair.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I move that we elect Marlo Dill as the Vice Chair of the Planning Commission for 2026.
Second it.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. Well, first, are you okay with that?
I'll accept.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay. There you have it.
Thanks, Mike.
Yeah,
Oh, you're welcome.
and Hunter and Marlo.
Okay, so at this point then, Hunter, you would take over.
Okay. Good. I'm okay with how it is right now.
That's okay, right now.
Okay. Well, we'd like to invite our pro tem commissioner, Monty Kurtz, to join us. Thank you for joining us, Monty.
Thanks.
Okay. Bring it closer. Is it on? Yeah, it is on. Okay. Well, I'd like to talk about our process. The meeting is being conducted in person as well as by phone and Zoom. This allowing planning commissioners and members of the public to participate in person or remotely. We'll conduct a roll call to determine who is present throughout the meeting. We'll call on individual planning commissioners to make sure that everyone has a chance to be heard. Please wait until you are called upon to offer comments and/or testimony. If you are online and would like to speak, please submit a request in the chat function and wait to be recognized. We'd like to thank everyone for their understanding and patience. Minutes and audio recordings will be available on the Planning Commission website. The people joining me are Crook County Planning Commissioners. We are volunteers that have been appointed by the Board of Commissioners and make up a diverse cross-section of the community. The Planning Commission will consider the following agenda items. Minute review, March 12, 2025 and April 9, 2025. Two will be public hearing record number 217-25-000-293-PLNG, application for telecommunication facility. Next is a roll call of planning commissioners. Kirk Giovanni.
Here.
George Punt.
Here.
Laquita Steck.
Here.
Mike Warren.
Here.
Marla Dill.
Present.
And Monty Kurtz.
Present.
And I am here, Hunter Newhart. Louder? I can. Absolutely. Will staff please indicate for the record which absences are excused or unexcused?
No absences.
For public comment, is there anyone in the meeting room or participating remotely that wishes to address an item not on the agenda? If attending remotely, please enter a request to speak into the chat function. If none, hearing and seeing none, we will now mute all lines of those who are not staff or commissioners and move on to the first item on the agenda. For minutes. The commissioners have the minutes of March 12th, 2025 before them. Do any commissioners have comments on the minutes? Okay. Now we can call for a motion.
Mr. Chairman.
Mhm.
I move we approve the minutes of March 12th and April 9th as presented.
Second?
Call for a vote. Kirk?
So we're voting on both of them?
Oh,
I think we're,
would you like me to amend my motion for the 12th? first?
Yeah, because I'm
Okay.
gonna vote
March 12th?
differently.
yep, yeah, it's just single.
Okay,
So we are still making a motion.
my motion is to approve the minutes as
Okay.
presented unless there's discussion.
For March 12th?
Yes,
Okay.
And Monty, you still second?
Still second.
Okay. Anything for discussion?
What if we weren't on the planning commission, then do we have a right to vote if there were?
You can abstain.
Probably from abstain.
Okay.
Okay, now we'll call for a vote. Kirk,
Abstain.
George,
Aye.
Laquita,
I,
Mike,
Aye.
Marlo,
I abstain. I was not here on March 12th.
Monty,
I don't believe I was here on March 12th either, so I abstain.
and I also abstain as I was not here.
holy cow.
What's the vote then? That was 3?
Okay. That work?
We have the full board.
Okay,
I'm just guessing.
Okay, Mr.
I-
Chairman,
I
I
don't think
move
it's
to
different.
approve the minutes of April 9th.
okay.
It's in April.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, Mike seconds. Now we'll call for a vote. Kirk,
Abstain.
George,
Abstain, I wasn't here.
Laquita,
I,
Mike,
Aye.
Marlo.
Aye.
I'm also going to abstain. Monty?
Abstain. I wasn't here.
there we go.
Yeah.
George, it does show you were here.
Okay, well then I guess I have to change my vote.
You change your vote?
Yes, aye.
Okay, George is an aye.
Oh,
Okay. Well, now we'll move over to the public hearing. We'll now move to the next item on the agenda, continued public hearing for record number 217-25-000-293-PLNG. Thomas Alexander, owner, and ACOM Consulting Inc., which is the agent, are proposing a telecommunication facility. The subject property is located on Southwest Williams Road, north of Highway 126, and is identified as map tax lot number 151-414-0000100. The applicable criteria, the hearing is being held pursuant to the Crook County Code 18.172. The proposal is evaluated with the following applicable criteria. Crook County Code 18.16 exclusive farm use zones, which is EFU 3. Crook County Code 18.124 supplementary provisions. Oregon Revised Statutes 215.283 and 215.275. Crook County Comprehensive Plan. So let's see. Okay, now we're going to ex parte contact, conflict of interest bias. Do any of the commissioner members have a conflict of interest or bias to disclose?
No.
No.
Nope.
no,
I am a no. Has any members of the commission had ex parte contact with the applicant or member of the public regarding this matter?
No.
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 no,
Commissioners should disclose if they have visited the site or state on the record any observations and impressions from the site. Kirk?
I drove by it yesterday.
George?
I haven't visited, I have not visited the site.
Done.
Mike,
I have not.
Marlo,
I've driven by the site within the last couple weeks, but it was not specifically to look at this site.
Monty?
No.
And I am a no. Are there members of the public in person or participating remotely who wish to challenge any members of the commission? If participating online, please enter in a request to speak using the chat feature. To turn it up. Let me just move my binder and bring the mic closer. Okay. Okay, hearing none, we'll move on. Oh, there we go. That sounds a lot better. Okay, order of proceedings. Before opening for testimony, either in person or for those participating remotely, I want to remind everyone that all testimony must be directed to the applicable approval criteria and standards. No person may testify without first receiving recognition from the hearing authority and stating their full name and address. No person may present irrelevant, immaterial, or unduly repetition testimony or evidence. Please do not repeat testimony. The commission has the discretion to set time limits for oral testimony. The burden is on the applicant to demonstrate that all the criteria have been met. To establish a complete record, opposition testimony that addresses the relevant criteria needs to be heard in full. There appear to be too many interested parties tonight. As such, it seems appropriate to allow the applicant to present a 5-minute limit per person for opposition testimony unless they request more time for good cause. If you are representing a large organized group or presenting technical expert data that requires more than 5 minutes, please identify yourself now so the commission can consider a time extension for good cause. Oh, yeah, please come up to the mic.
My name is Mike Scheinfein, and I'm the technical expert for the opposition, and I would require 25 to 30 minutes to represent all the technical elements that are relevant.
Okay.
Thank you.
He's an expert. What?
Expert
Expert
testimony.
witness.
Expert witness.
Okay.
That's fine. Anybody else? Okay. Yes. To the mic so everybody can hear you.
My name's Neil Hankey, 8440 Southwest Ogagama. I'm just curious, can we see time if we have that opportunity to Annette like we did in the last meeting? Okay, thank you.
That says she doesn't need it. Okay. So now we'll proceed. Failure to raise an issue accompanied by statements or evidence with enough detail to give the hearing authority and the parties an opportunity to respond to the issue precludes appeal to the Land Use Board of Appeals on that issue. Failure to raise constitutional or any other issues relating to proposed conditions of approval with detailed specificity, to allow the hearing authority to respond to the issues precludes the applicant from seeking action for damages in circuit court. At the conclusion of the hearing, pursuant to Crook County Code 18.172.081, the Planning Commission may consider any request to continue the hearing or to leave the written record open. We will start the hearing with a staff presentation. After that, testimony from any federal, state, or local agencies will be allowed. We will then offer an opportunity for the applicants to speak. Individuals in support of the proposal will be heard, then those neutral to the proposal. Next, those opposed to the proposal will be heard. The applicant can then offer rebuttal. We will now proceed to the staff presentation.
Thank you, Chair Newhart. Congratulations. Congratulations, Vice Chair Dill, former Chair Warren. Crook County greatly appreciates your service, and so do I. So thank you very much. Hannah, pull up PowerPoint. Thank you. All right, so similar to last time, my intent here is to basically tee this up and let you guys hear from the testimony so we can build the record. This PowerPoint is going to be similar to the one you guys saw last time. So here's the first slide. Anna, we go to the next slide, please. All right, so this is a summary of the application. This is, the applicant is Harmony Towers and Verizon Wireless, seeking to expand coverage and capacity in the Palo Butte community. They want to increase capacity along Highway 26 between Redmond and Prineville. The residents on the north side of Palo Butte reported poor cell service, and they're proposing a 150-foot monopole with 9 panel antennas for 158 feet total, auxiliary equipment, 3 equipment cables or cabinets, and a backup diesel generator. That is a drawing of what they propose it will look like. Slide, please. Kind of roll through these. See, there's, I think, 3 sites there for additional tenants. Keep going. There's a map of where it's supposed to be sited along with some of the alternatives. Keep going. These are just some pictures. We're in the application. And you can just keep going through these till we get to the text. That's what they have, images that they have. So here's our timeline. The application was submitted August 28th, deemed complete October 1st, public notice November 13th, public notice mailed the 26th. First hearing was December 17th, and then continued until today. So this falls under ORS 215-283 sub 1 sub C sub A. These are everything that's in 283 sub 1 is what's called a Brentmar use. And so these are uses permitted in exclusive farm use zones and non-marginal lands. A utility facility necessary for public service has to be under 200 feet. And it's established as provided in ORS 215-275. So on that statute, it's necessary for public service under sub 1 if the facility must be sited in an exclusive farm use zone in order to provide the service. Under sub 2, to demonstrate that a utility facility is necessary, an applicant must show that reasonable alternatives have been considered and that the facility must be sited in an exclusive farm use zone due to one or more of the following factors. The one that I believe the factor to exclude the alternative sites the applicant is basing most of the exclusions on is here at sub A, technical and engineering feasibility. So as I referenced in my staff report and the supplemental memo that's both in the record, the test really boils down to these 3 main questions. Do the applicant's defined objectives further the statutory purpose of providing utility service? Have reasonable non-EFU alternatives been considered? And have all of the alternatives, all of them, been ruled out by one or more of the ORS 215-275 sub 2 factors, which I stated is technical feasibility. I went in depth in my supplemental memo on how the Planning Commission should evaluate the evidence presented today. We have competing expert testimony, and so just want to remind you the burden, as always, is on the applicant to establish all the relevant criteria have been met. The Planning Commission, as the fact finder, is to weigh all of the evidence in the record and make a decision as a reasonable person would. That's the standard. That's the standard that LUBA is going to look at if this gets appealed and they look at the record. Did you guys come to the same decision that a reasonable person could? Other than that, they're not going to second guess what you say. With competing expert testimony, the job here is to determine whose testimony is more credible to either establish that the criteria have been met or they have not been met. What's important is that the Planning Commission articulate how and why they came to the decision that they did. Basically, which evidence was most persuasive to you, which testimony was most credible to you. That's what this comes down to. Next slide. All right, so we're going to walk through the test real quickly. I'm going to let the parties get more into the weeds on this. So number 1, do the applicant's defined objectives further the statutory purpose of providing utility service? Slide, please. So the applicant stated their defined objectives are to increase capacity along Highway 26 between Redmond and Prineville, to expand coverage to the Palo Butte community, and to provide communication service infrastructure to support emergency service, emergency response, law enforcement, fire protection, and medical services. As I stated in my supplemental memo, I interpret this sub 1 as a threshold factor. And so if they can't establish that their stated objectives are qualify as providing utility service, then that basically ends the analysis right there. But Keep going. Next slide. So the objectors, everything that's going to be in red here is are assertions by the objectors. And so on increase in capacity, among other things, they state that there's insufficient data on the current or needed capacity to establish this has been met. And for coverage, they stated that the Verizon engineer said the coverage would be just fine if not for those capacity constraints. And then, as we'll get to, and it was in my supplemental memo, an important part of this first step to evaluate these two things on coverage capacity is the test ring. And one of the things the objectors have pointed out is there are inconsistent test rings. The case law says the test ring does not need to be perfect or precise. It just needs to show the general area. But that was on, I think, a sloppily designed test ring, not where there were inconsistent test rings. And so that's something I'm sure the parties will discuss. Next slide, please. All right, have reasonable non-EFU alternatives been considered? Next slide. So I was going to run through, these are the alternatives. They had 3 towers for co-locating, but so this is the alternatives. That's where the main proposed site is without the number. Next slide. So that's their first alternative. That's the Sprint American Tower. This would be a co-location option over there at number 1 to the east. Next slide. Next one's in the PBR 20 zone. Next slide. We go to the R5, rural residential. It's alternative 3. Next slide. Rural residential 4. Go to the next one. And then I believe the map had 4 and 5 at the same spot. So the number 3 is have all the alternatives been ruled out. Next slide. So this will then bring in 215.275 sub 3, which explains that cost associated with these alternatives may be considered, but cost isn't the only factor. So if one of the alternatives will cost the applicant more money, it's up to you guys to determine if that increase in cost is reasonable. It's okay if it costs a little bit more, but there's a line there somewhere. And land costs shall not be included when considering alternative locations for substantially similar utility facilities. Next slide. So this is the alternative 1. This is the co-location at the Sprint Tower. The applicant says this one will provide reduced coverage versus the proposed site and does not provide offload to the neighbors to the east and the south. The objectors counter that indoor coverage with this site would be lower, but vehicle coverage would be better. It's got a greater tower height, would be more affordable, and the reasons to eliminate this tower were subjective and not supported by the evidence. Next slide. So this is alternative 2. The applicant here again said reduced coverage versus the proposed site, too close to the neighbor sites to the south, won't provide the coverage to the north. Next slide. Alternative 3, again, reduced coverage versus the proposed site, too far north, does not provide the offload needed to the south. The objectors counter that there's less indoor coverage, but greater in-vehicle coverage. And I think this is, yeah, this one was cited just on the line between EFU and non-EFU. And so if it was pushed west a little bit, it would be on non-EFU ground. Next slide. Alternative 4, again, reduced coverage, too near existing facilities, will not provide coverage needed to the north, and does not fulfill the project's technical requirements. To this one, the objectors, next slide, please. I guess I don't have anything covers now. And then alternative 5, again, the applicant reduced coverage versus the proposed site, does not provide the needed service to the north. Next slide. All right, so at the prior hearing, the objectors brought a testimony and submitted written evidence that they have located alternative sites A through I. The case law for Getz versus Deschutes County, if another party identifies an alternative site with reasonable specificity, it must also be considered and therefore then ruled out by the applicant for whatever reasons they have under 215.275 sub 2. The objectors note that alternative sites A and B are great spots. They have greater elevation, so it'll provide greater coverage. These sites would blend well into the environment, and then they could optimize the Wiley Tower, which I believe the record shows has sufficient capacity to relieve the strain capacity at the Palo Butte Tower. Their expert goes on to say that some combination of optimizing the Wiley Tower and a combination of these alternative sites would certainly work. Next slide. And again, those are the factors that can rule out any and all of these proposed sites. It needs to be one of those things, A through F, in order to be disqualified. Next slide. That was it. Like I said, just trying to set the stage there. Are there any questions for staff? I want to note, we did get a letter from ODFW. Contact them. There was an exhibit submitted in the record that there was a picture of possibly a new nesting site for bald eagles that triggers coordination with ODFW and the Fish and Wildlife Service. And so Greg Jackal, our district wildlife biologist, submitted a letter in the record today, which is, I believe, exhibit 200. You have the packet in front of you. So we've made it to 200 exhibits. See how far we go. Are there any questions for staff at this time before we get started?
Chair, a question. I have a
Oh.
question, unless you,
No.
you want to go first?
No, go for it.
So my question would be, there was testimony and then an exhibit. Let me look here. I think it was 178. It was brought up about the proper person signing the application, whether they had authority to sign it. Because it isn't an LLC, the property has that been cleared, I guess? Do they have, whoever signed, it was brought up, and I didn't see anything from the applicant saying, yes, the operating agreement says XYZ can sign for this and that, and
I know we got a new authorization agreement. There was a change in the applicant. I need to go back through the record and make sure that the parties match on that.
Okay.
I-
There's just my question.
Yeah, there's a lot of procedural stuff that we need to get through. This is enough, I think, for tonight to get through these factors and make sure that everybody gets to present on this. But that will definitely be coming in
Okay.
the final staff report.
Does anybody else have questions?
For staff. The alternatives proposed by the now I lost my place. The people objecting provided alternative sites H through P. And I'm wondering, is this something that we need more information on, or are we supposed to figure this out from tax lot numbers? Or is there some dialogue that goes with this as to why we need to review all these things?
It is up to the opponents to locate these sites with reasonable specificity, and then it's up to the applicant to disqualify them for one reason or another. And so, without speaking for them, I imagine you'll be hearing a lot about those alternative sites.
Okay, so we're expecting the objectors to specify so that lay people can understand what these numbers mean and why. And then the applicant will have an opportunity to address them later.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Does anybody else have questions?
No.
Okay. So now we'll move on to agent's testimony or agency testimony. Now we will hear from agency representatives. If there are any agency representatives participating remotely who would like to offer a testimony. You got one chat in the box? You have one chat in the box? Oh, and if you are online, please send a message in the chat in the box.
I know that Greg said he couldn't be here from ODFW. I don't see Russ here. I could just read Greg's letter into the record if you'd like.
Yes,
I'd appreciate that.
Okay. Dear Planning Commission, the purpose of this letter is to provide Crook County Planning Commission with Oregon Department of Fish and Wildlife written comments on the proposed telecommunications facility in Palo Butte. ODFW was made aware of the project and a potential conflict with a nesting bald eagle just recently. Since ODFW has not been able to visit the site in this short time frame, it is the intent of this letter to provide our initial feedback. Crook County Code Chapter 18120 describes measures to protect sensitive bird habitat areas. While this often relates to the Goal 5 sensitive bird inventory for bald eagle, golden eagle, prairie falcon, and sage grouse, it would also apply to newly discovered nests. Coordination with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service should occur to make sure this development complies with Baldwin Golden Eagle Protection Act. Thank you for the opportunity to comment, and please reach out if there's more information needed. So the site is not in any of our mapped habitat, but as stated in the letter, since there is an observation of a potential bald eagle site, then this triggers this process. And so I think this typically means they just can't. There's no construction during the nesting period. Is other mitigation measures would be the result if there is a nest present.
Thank you. And I assume there's no other agencies, so we'll move on. So now we'll move on to the applicant testimony. Does the applicant wish to testify? Please be sure to state your name, address for the record.
Thank you, Chair Newharth and members of the commission. For the record, my name is Mike Connors. I'm an attorney at Hathaway Larson, and I represent the applicants in this matter. I'm here tonight to ask for a continuance to provide us more time to prepare our material in response to the information that was submitted at the last hearing. As you may know, having looked at some of that, the information that was submitted at the hearing on December 17th was quite extensive and dense. Exhibit 178 alone was about 61 pages with some very technical information, identification of 9 alternative sites. And it was our objective to review that material, provide you written responses from our RF engineers, and give you an opportunity to review that material before this hearing tonight. Turns out that we underestimated the amount of work and the timing issues that we faced, partly because of the holidays made it very difficult for us to have people available to work on, coordinate. There's quite a bit of information that we need to gather on the 9 alternative sites. Just to give you one example of some of the complications, zoning requirements for towers are very different depending on whether property has water rights or not. So we had to work with the water master to try to understand kind of which properties had water rights, which did not, and there was some conflicting information on that. And the objective was to provide you something in advance that you could understand and digest, not just a bunch of technical garble that you had to kind of figure out on your own in the hearing. And when it became apparent that we weren't going to be able to have our material completed in time to be able to meet that objective, again, complete our analysis and prepare a written document so that you can understand and digest what our position is, as well as the neighbors and objectors. We contacted staff on Friday of last week and said, hey, we're not going to be ready to go on the 14th. We're going to ask for a continuance. And staff indicated to us that we would have to ask for that continuance here tonight because the Planning Commission is required to make that determination. So that's what we're requesting. We have provided the county an extension of the 150-day deadline, so that's already that issue's already been resolved. And understand that there's a lot of folks that are here tonight that took time to come and testify. We'd hope to be able to avoid that by trying to get the continuance done before tonight's hearing, but understand staff's position that it had to be a Planning Commission decision. So we're, absolutely happy to have anyone who wants to testify tonight or submit any material to do so, they can. And again, our request is for continuous. Staff has indicated the next available hearing would be February 11th. And our goal would be to get you our written material in advance of that hearing so that you have time to be able to review it and be prepared and have a better understanding of our issues. We think that would be to everyone's benefit so that everybody's position is pretty clear. And then you can make a decision, a more informed decision, rather than trying to sort of decipher some of this. And again, as I indicated, we're more than happy to allow folks to testify tonight. I guess the one thing I would ask is if you could vote on the continuance so we know whether there will be a continuance, and that would provide us and other parties an opportunity to submit additional information or testify to you at your February 11th hearing. So that's my request, is if you could vote on that, and then we can continue the hearing to allow those folks that are here or online to testify as they see fit.
Thank you. So for staff, do we, would we still do the testimonies and then do a continuance afterwards so they can get it into record?
Yeah, so a couple of points. The first is we do have the one tolling letter, but we would need to get this tolled through the end of March if we wanted to continue this hearing. And I think that,
We provided.
oh,
this-
Hannah has that?
Yeah,
Okay, sorry, I didn't know
sorry.
that. There we go. All right, so
That's
we're good there on the timing. Since this is a continued hearing, you guys already continued it once, you guys have a lot of discretion on how this goes. I don't see any procedural error if you guys vote on the continuance right now. It would make sense for the applicant then to know, if you guys deny the continuance, then they really need to present right now. And so it makes sense, I think, for me, to me, if that was voted on now. But overall, part of your job is to make sure you develop a full and complete record, and that's going to require as much evidence and testimony as you can get. And we have all the parties here now. And so to me, it also makes sense to vote on the continuance now and then to let anybody who wants to testify. And then when we will have the next hearing next time.
Question, yes, we continue it, we let people that are here tonight speak. And then is this something then the applicant will have, if there's new testimony submitted tonight, is this something that the applicant will be expected to address at the continued hearing? And then the opposition will get a chance to rebut again.
Correct. So the record will remain open as it's continued, and so any party can submit whatever they want. And then I assume at the next hearing, that would probably be the end of the open record period, and then the applicant would get their 7 days final rebuttal, and then you guys would meet for deliberations only after that, and then that would wrap it up.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question. Should this meeting be continued to a date time and certain, would that be February 11th?
Yes.
Okay.
And then from here, do we have a discussion on whether or not we want to do a continuance?
Did she make a motion?
I didn't make a motion, but I will now unless people want to talk about it.
You make the motion.
I would like to move that we continue this hearing until February 11th at 4 p.m., which is the date, time uncertain,
And leave the record open.
and leave the record open.
I'll second.
George,
Everybody say? Mike seconds.
who Mike did.
Everybody in favor?
I'm not.
Could we,
We go down in order here.
let's call for an actual
A
vote.
Yep. We're gonna call for a vote. So I'm gonna start with Kirk,
Nay.
George,
Aye.
Marlo,
Nay.
Mike,
Aye.
Laquita,
Aye.
Bonnie,
Aye.
and I'm gonna go with aye.
You don't vote.
I don't vote. Oh, sorry about that. I don't vote.
Not unless necessary.
That's necessary. Gotcha. I'm learning.
Yeah.
Okay. So then now do we go ahead and move on to?
Is that, I would ask the applicant if that's all they wanted to present on today.
It is, and really appreciate it. And I can promise you, we will be prepared on the 11th and present our case. So I do appreciate it. And I apologize in part because I thought maybe we would have time to be able to do it with the holidays. It just ended up being more difficult than I anticipated.
Okay.
But thank you.
So now we move on to the testimonies in support. Or do we go ahead and move on to neutral and opposition?
Neutral.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, see if there's anyone in support. I'm sorry.
Okay. Gotcha. Okay. So we're going to go with testimony support. Is there anyone here in person that would like to testimony in favor? Is anybody participating remotely who would like to testify in favor? Please enter a request using the chat feature. For neutral testimony, is there anyone here in person who would like to testify neutrally? Is there anyone participating remotely who would like to testify neutrally? Please enter a request using a chat feature. Okay. So now we move on to, is there anyone else here in person who'd like to testify in opposition? Which we have quite a few slips. So we'll Also, we'll see if there's anybody who is participating remotely who'd like to testify in opposition. Please enter a request using the chat feature. Okay. We'll move down the slips here. So what do I do? I start saying names? Any in just random order here. Okay. Not random order. Oh, we have a hand up. Can we take her? You might have to come up to the mic so we can hear you.
Does this lady have a sheet? She's got
Do you have a sheet up here as well? That you sent? Karen? Okay.
Yes, Karen Jones, 1900 Southwest Parish Lane in Powell Butte. We had asked ahead of the meeting, just right ahead of the meeting, that Annette be allowed to speak first and within the 5 minutes, because she needs to introduce Dr. Scheinfein, our expert, and we would ask that those two go first, if that's acceptable.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yep, got it. Okay, so we'd like to start off first would be Annette, and I apologize on your last name here. If you can clarify for the record.
Annette Kaloji. It's harder than
I'll remember that.
1900 Southwest Parish Lane. I want to start out with the procedural questions about the continuance, if I may, just to clarify things. One of the things that I think we need to know in opposition is whether or not with the continued hearing, the applicants can submit new points or they're only asking to submit rebuttal information. Because if they bring in 7 engineer reports and the objections can only be filed within 7 days, that is a huge disadvantage with their second continuance. So we don't oppose the continuance if they are only bringing in rebuttal evidence, as Mr. Connors said they were, and not introducing new points.
As I stated before, the record is open, and so that means any party, even a party that hasn't been part of the proceeding before, could then submit testimony. As far as what the applicant has proposed to submit, I don't know the answer to that, but the record would still be open at that point, and her argument could be addressed at that time. It would be my suggestion. Or we could ask the applicant if they are planning on submitting anything outside the scope of what's already been submitted.
Are you posing anything outside of the scope?
No, our intent is to submit rebuttal to the information that's submitted. And obviously, if there's anything new submitted tonight, we would respond to that as well, but we're not going to be introducing any all the.
Okay.
And tonight, no new points are raised. So we are not introducing new information. We are having our expert defend our existing information.
Like I said, there could be others that you're not aware of. Yeah. That's
Sorry.
perfect.
And the second thing I just want to clarify with you, Mr. Eisler, Mr. Connors said, and you said that the 150-day deadline is extended. Is that both the county deadline and the federal shot clock? I haven't seen the letters. The federal shot clock
Does
extended.
it reference both? I imagine it's probably the same language as the prior letter. Correct. Yeah, through March 31st.
The federal shot clock.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Sorry. Thank you, commissioners. I want to start off by specifically talking about the legal landscape that you understand quite well. And as Mr. Eisler set out, Oregon statute 215, 275 did the balancing you don't have to do. There are two very important competing interests: the need to have cell phone service and the need to protect our precious farmland. So that balance has been struck. And it's very clear that the process the applicant is supposed to follow is that once they look and see that there is no non-EFU land they can use, then and only then, they look for EFU land. And we believe that the evidence shows that that burden has not been met. And the commissioner asked about additional alternate sites. Not only are the alternate sites they've listed, but, and I apologize, I don't have a big blow up of this, but on page 3 of our application, we have a map of the 10 square miles of non-EFU land that we propose as alternate sites. And on page 25 of our objection, we cite each of those by tax lot number. And Dr. Scheinfein will have a map that shows where those are. So for the purposes of the commission, I think it's very clear we have some maps that show the additional areas we're providing as alternate sites. So the important thing here is, as Mr. Eisler pointed out, and as everyone has recognized, the burden is on the applicant. The community does not have to prove that non-EFU sites are feasible. We don't have to prove that. The applicants have to prove that they will not work. And that's significant, and that has been cited. And I want to point out specifically that our alternatives do not have to be the best site for this cell tower. I would like to read from you the case of Harshman versus Jackson County, a LUBA case. This is a quote. What I'm reading is a quote. As we noted in the City of Albany versus Lynn County, under ORS 215275, an applicant who wishes to site a utility facility on EFU zone land must show that it is infeasible to locate the facility on land that is not zoned EFU. While the statute is somewhat ambiguous concerning how difficult development of a non-EFU zone site for the intended purpose must be before it can be found infeasible, it is quite clear that a finding that the proposed site is the best site of the available sites is inadequate. Although the above quoted findings of the hearings officer include unexplained conclusions that use the 4 non-EFU zoned sites that were examined by the applicant to provide the desired service would be infeasible. The findings also suggest that the hearings officer believed the approval site should be approved because it is the best of the alternatives that were examined. Based on those findings, we conclude the hearings officer misinterpreted the requirement of ORS 215275 and failed to adequately explain why the 4 alternative sites were considered are infeasible. You will hear from the expert who speaks next as to the fact that what we have here from the applicants are in fact unexplained conclusions that the alternate sites don't work. And that error would be continued by this county if you were to conclude that we must put the tower on the EFU land because it's the best site. That's simply not the law. I also want to point out that the county does not have discretion to consider that evidence that is insufficiently credible. As a matter of law and fact, if you find and you have evidence before you that the technical materials of the applicant are not credible, you cannot rely on them as a matter of law and fact. And there are 2 ways that that evidence can be not sufficiently credible. One is that if their own evidence is simply so filled with errors and lacking in detail or self-contradictory that it's not reasonable to rely on it. And I'm going to talk about that for a moment. The second way could be if the information is undermined by experts who contradict the technical material. And that's what you'll hear from Dr. Scheinfein next. So frankly, this isn't just a process of a battle of the experts. If we had no experts, but their information was so filled with errors and inconsistencies, it's not credible, then they have not met their burden. And in our first objection, we lay out a number of those flaws, and I'm just going to go over a couple of them here. Again, as you saw from my prior presentation, there are search rings drawn all over the community, making it very difficult to assess exactly what kind of area they're trying to provide service for. Secondly, a significant amount of the land that they say they try to provide cell service for is either BLM land or uninhabited. Mr. Kennedy, when he testified, said squirrels don't need cell phones. Neither do cows or sagebrush. That material was improperly included in their search area. At least one of the coordinates for the sites that Mr. Kennedy used was on EFU land. That's alternate site 3. Maps 4 and 5 for 2 of their 5 sites are exactly the same. One or both of those maps is wrong. They cannot be the same. Mr. Kennedy's report refers to comparing the coverage areas for towers that are 180 feet. The tower on the proposed site is 150 feet. That changes the coverage area that those towers could reach. That is not credible information. And in the report that Mr. Kennedy does, he in no way deals with the fact that the proposed site is the lowest elevation of the alternate sites and of all of the sites we presented, A through I. Higher elevation means, with nothing else different, higher towers, and that means a different coverage area. His analysis simply is flawed. And lastly, the maps of the two engineers submitted, Mr. Ferguson, who is an internal RF engineer and of Verizon, and Mr. Kennedy, wholly completely contradict each other. And in fact, Mr. Kennedy's maps, as you will be shown, his own maps wholly and completely contradict each other. Either one or both of those maps have to be wrong. And my point to all of this is that the credibility of the data relied on by the applicants does not meet their burden in this case. And it would be error for this county to rely on that information to find that the application has met its burden. And there's one other point I want to make, and it's about the objective of providing emergency communication. I think you'll hear from folks in the community about that, but I want to point out there has been no evidence, zero evidence, that there is any problem with our communication systems here, or that we need this tower for communication, for additional communication, nor is there any testimony as to why any of the alternate sites couldn't provide that service if it was needed. So based on the record in this case and the governing law, we contend that the county has no option but to deny the application. Thank you for your time.
One question.
Yeah.
Oh,
ask if there's
please.
any-
Yeah, wait.
Ask if there's any questions for her.
Oh, do you,
No, that's the.
yeah, board, do we have any questions for her?
I do have a question. So you mentioned the uninhabited lands. Don't people go out on those lands? They're public lands to recreate, to hunt, I mean, there are people there. They may not live there, but
And that's a fair comment, but does that meet the statutory requirement of providing utility service in the county? That would be my question. And I would also add, has there been any evidence submitted that there's not sufficient coverage in those areas?
okay, thank you.
Does anybody else have any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you, Nat. Move on to our next, which is Mike. I apologize on your last name. Sheffin?
Mike Scheinfein.
Sheffin.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Thanks for the opportunity to testify. My name is Mike Scheinfein, and I reside at 841 Northwest Spring Ave in Portland. And I'm consulting with the objectives on this cell phone tower project. A little bit about me. I have a BS in electrical engineering and computer science from MIT, and an MS and a PhD in applied engineering physics from Cornell. I'm retired, but I've had many jobs in my professional career, including a professor of physics. And I was a chief technology officer of FEI company in Hillsborough. So I've been around the block a bit. As a professor, I taught graduate courses in electrodynamics, and that's the technology and the science that's used to design towers such as these. And some of my students worked in that field. And while at FEI, I was responsible for the design, construction, and support of a wide product portfolio. And these were expensive and complicated instruments, to the $10 million a piece, and we shipped, $1 billion worth of stuff every year. So this is to say that, I've made stuff too. The second consultant for the objectives is Steve Mahan. I believe he's on the line, but unfortunately couldn't be here in person today. Mr. Mahan has a BS in electrical engineering from the University of Illinois, an MS in electrical engineering from Stanford, 45 years of experience in industry, and 40 years of experience in RF and communication electronics. And Mr. Mahan joins me and adopts the presentation that I'm giving you here today on the record. So you should consider this from us, not just from me. For the purpose of clarity, I'll refer to Verizon, applicants, and so on. All of the guys who are presenting the application are collectively they. I understand the requirements of ORS 215-275 regarding the legal burden on the applicants. And my comments to the commission today will focus on the alternative site analysis. And I'll spend the entirety of my time focusing on that. I'll be focusing on asking whether or not the alternative site analysis meets the applicant's proposed objectives. And just to reiterate, and it's really quite simple, they want to add coverage in Powell Butte, they want to add capacity along Route 126, and they want to provide additional bandwidth. That means, you know, more communication potential. So could I have the next slide, please? Setting up the discussion, I want to quote from page 81 of the application, where Mr. Ferguson, who's Verizon's RF engineer, states, overall, the signal strength is good to excellent. If Verizon did not have any exhausted sectors, the design, meaning the network that's been established in this area, would work just fine. So what he's trying to say here is there's plenty of coverage, but there are some bottlenecks when things get busy. And those occur in the area, which is essentially where Powell Butte South is, north of Brasada and south of the Powell Buttes, the mountain. And so that's where the bottleneck is. And so I'll be speaking to this and how the alternative sites can meet the need and so forth. But before I drone on and bore you guys to death, I want to give you my takeaway so that you can think about it as I go through the presentation. And then when I finish, I'll come back to that. The next slide, please. So, and this is an academic thing. All academics say the conclusion first. So here's my conclusion. There are numerous options using the alternative sites that are technically feasible to meet the coverage and capacity objectives identified by the applicants. And that's what the statute requires. The statement is based on principles of physics and engineering that are immutable. In other words, the laws of physics aren't changing here. And, whether there are new reports and new information, what I'm going to tell you here today stands whether or not there's new information or not. The technical factors that make the proposed site acceptable to the applicants are the same reasons why the alternative sites must also be acceptable. So we're going to rely on the applicant's own data and the applicant's own logic to show you that if it's good enough for their proposed site, it's good enough for the alternative sites as well. Could I have the next slide, please? So we're going to start the discussion by increasing low frequency coverage. The notion that the frequency isn't important at this point, but the notion of coverage is something that you all know. It's the size of the area that's illuminated by a tower. It would be similar to the size of an area that was irrigated where you were growing something, and you can see why that would be important. The applicant's proposal, adding a cell tower in Powell Butte, doesn't happen in isolation. Any new cell tower placed in Powell Butte will become part of the established and existing Verizon network. And Verizon has at its disposal knobs and dials, controls in other words, to tune the performance and the functionality of a given tower and how that tower coordinates with the rest of the network. Adjustments to the network and their performance happen dynamically, real-time, automatically. The software does that. And as the system adapts to different load conditions in different sectors, in other words, the towers are working together as a team. And so, we can't only talk about this tower, it's where this tower is and how it communicates to all the other towers in the area. So you've seen the coverage map at the last testimony, and if you've looked at the documents that Mr. Kennedy presented, and he presented pretty pictures that showed lobes. And the theme in my discussion here is I want to make it obvious to you how you can intuitively interpret this information, because it really is not complicated. It's actually simple. The doing of it is complicated, but the understanding of how it works is not. So the lobes emanating, displaying the coverage from the proposed site have 3 lobes. So on the antennas, there's 3 sets of antennas on each side, and the antennas beam it out into different sectors, and that makes the lobes. But the cell company can tweak these things. And so if they want it to illuminate more on one side than on the other side. They turn up the juice on one side and they turn the juice down on the other side. They can suck the lobes in and they can push the lobes out. They have tremendous flexibility in how they can adapt these towers into how they work. The only gotcha is that the lobes of the cell towers adjacent to one another, they have to overlap. And intuitively, you know this because if you're driving in your car and you're talking on the phone, when you drive down the road, you're going to handing off from one cell phone tower to the next, and you don't drop the call. And the reason is that there's overlap and the system is smart. When you get close to one, it sends you over to the next cell phone tower. So all of this is part of a network, and the coverage can be optimized so the towers don't interfere with each other. And many factors can be varied by the cell phone coverage to make the design of the network work. And it's a tremendously flexible and complex problem for the guys who run this, but it's not conceptually difficult to understand how it works. And Mr. Ferguson Mr. Ferguson is the Verizon guy, the RF engineer. He refers to this capability directly in his report. He said, Verizon will optimize its towers after the new site is added. And he suggests that they would turn down the Wiley Towers northern sectors so that they can beam it more down to the south. So the applicants already acknowledge that there's flexibility in how they can change the coverage and goose up the system to make this all work. But if they can make it work for the proposed site, I'm going to show you that they can also make it work for the alternative sites. And that's the point here. I'm going to get now into a little bit of a technical discussion about coverage. And for that, I'm going to rely on data and pictures. So I hope you can bear with me, and I'll try to keep it simple and straight to the point. But most of the data that were presented in the applicant's proposal are from computer simulations. And the pretty pictures and these are not terribly difficult to generate. But the applicants didn't tell you how they made these simulations. They didn't tell you what perimeters they used to enter. They didn't tell you what the input data was, how reflective the landscape was, and so on. But, well, that doesn't matter. We're going to take the data at face value and show you that it's still inconsistent. And if it works for the proposed tower, it works for the other ones. Doesn't matter how good the models are. If it's good for the goose, it's good for the gander. The next slide, please. So this is a piece of data that is actually experimental. And Mr. Kennedy, who is working for the applicants, showed this at the last meeting. And what this is a drive-by. And Mr. Kennedy drove around Powell Butte with an electronic device, and he measured the coverage. And just to remind you, green is excellent, yellow is good, and orange and red, not so good. So this data is from a single drive-through, while the industry standard for using drive-through data usually requires people to do multiple drive-throughs on multiple days, because even from your own experience with cell phones, it varies a little bit day to day and so on, depending on the weather and whatnot. Next slide, please. This is a comparison of the drive data with the coverage information provided by the applicants. Now, why this is important is on the left is the experiment that Mr. Kennedy ran. He ran around in a car and he measured the intensity on his cell phone, and it's got the same color map. Green is good, yellow, not so good. I mean, yellow good, orange, not so good. These two pieces of information are supposed to say the same thing. On the right is his simulation, the simulation that he based all his information on in the application. And if they were the same, they would have the same color in all of the areas. And you can see the squares that we drew on here to help you guide the eye. These two things don't say the same thing. So what this means is that the experiment that he ran and the simulation that he provided are in conflict with each other. Now, I don't know which one is right, but they both can't be right. And that's the takeaway conclusion here. But nonetheless, I'm just going to take their simulation data on face value, because that's the only way we can do an apples to apples comparison of the proposed site with the alternative sites. And that's really what's at issue here. Next slide, please. So this slide shows you some of the what I call pinch points. You can see they're labeled A, B, C, and D. They're the areas where, you know, the color is orange. That's not so good. And these are the areas where the applicant said that they wanted to, quote, fix the bad coverage. And next slide, please. These are data from Mr. Kennedy's report, from his report, and it shows the experimental data in the lower left. And you can see the proposed site map in the upper left. This is the coverage, green being really excellent, yellow being good, red, orange, not so good. And you can see the results of the alternative sites. But what I want to draw your attention to are the pinch points, and those are indicated by the stars. And so if we could go to the next slide, you'll see that all of the alternative sites remediate the problem at the pinch points. They may not do it equally, but they do it adequately. They do it feasibly. And so each one of these alternatives provides a remediation to the pinch point that has bad cell service in the same way that the proposed site does. Next slide, please. So this is a little bit harder to discuss, and so I'm going to try to be a little bit deliberate in leading you through some of the logic here, talking about capacity. So capacity is a little complicated. The bandwidth of a tower, meaning like how many connections it can make to how many handsets and how much data is going up and down and how fast. That's kind of the gist of it. And it depends upon frequency, and it depends upon many different things. And but the analysis in the application is mostly limited to low frequency bands, which is the bands that's most used in rural towers because they expand over larger areas. They penetrate through buildings better, and so on. So, but I do want to make a comment about the high frequency bands as well. So in the application, Mr. Kennedy gave some drive data for some high frequency measurements, just like I showed you for the low frequency measurements. But unfortunately, the applicants presented no quantitative coverage maps or capacity information about those high frequency bands. And so the objectors can't object to it because there's no data to object to. So I can't provide you with arguments whether they're solving these problems or not, because they didn't say whether they're solving those problems or not. So we're just simply not going to talk about it. We're just going to limit our discussion to the low frequency bands where we have information from their proposal. So how does this all work? You hook up your phone, you dial it up, or you type in an internet address. It talks to the tower. Tower talks back to your phone. And this goes back and forth. The cell phones are exchanging data with the tower, and up to the limit where the tower's capacity is reached. It's the resource of capacity, another how many phones can talk to the tower and how they're exchanging data. An infinite number of phones can't do this, and everybody can't be watching TikTok sitting around the tower and using all the bandwidth. It's simply not there. It's a finite resource. And that's what this capacity deal is all about. So as the tower nears its capacity, these things are smart, and the coverage areas are overlapping. So when one tower starts to, be feeling the pain, it says, "Hey guys, in my overlapping area, you take these calls, you take these data links. I'm getting full," because when I start getting full, the performance of the network doesn't work very well anymore. And so that's why this capacity thing is important, because the towers need to be able to talk to each other. They need to be able to signal, "Hey, you take that call instead of me." And it still has to be below the threshold of any of the given towers Otherwise, you're just left with the circle on your phone going around, and that's frustrating for everybody. So that's what the capacity gig is all about. But we want to reiterate that Mr. Ferguson, the Verizon engineer, tells us that the coverage in Powell Butte is good to excellent, but the design would work fine. And he means the design for the whole Verizon network in your area would be fine, except there's a bottleneck near Powell Butte South, basically between Brasada and the area of interest here. That's where the capacity has a problem. So the objective would be that if you can offload, in other words, share those calls around in that area, that you could solve that capacity issue. And there are a whole bunch of ways to do that. Not only the proposed tower can do that, the alternatives can do it too. And I'm going to show you how. Next slide, please. So here's a map, and you can see the sites are identified. The orange sites are the alternative sites provided by the applicants. Unfortunately, in the application, alternative 5, which is supposed to be essentially where the church is across from the store, has no map or anything like that. So we're going to be stuck only talking about alternatives 1, 2, 3, and 4. Dr. Kalogi, in her testimony in December, added a host of additional sites on non-EFU land, and those coordinates are listed in her document as presented. And we're going to talk about how these things work as well as the other. So take a look at the picture here, and you can see there are a Wiley Tower, which is black, and a Powell Butte South Tower, which is black. Those are existing towers. So if any of these sites can suck up cell phone signal from either Wiley or Powell Butte South, then they relieve some of the strain on those towers, and that allows them to put their efforts in other places. So, for example, if offload is provided for Wiley Tower on top of Powell Buttes, meaning the mountain, then Wiley can be turned down to the north, where Powell Butte community is, and turned up to the south, therefore helping the overloaded sectors to the south. All of the alternative sites in the project proposal increase coverage north of the Butte. So any of those alternatives will relieve any pain that's on the Wiley Tower. This relieves strain on Wiley, and if it directs its energy to the south, that in turn relieves strain on Powell Butte South. So it's kind of like dominoes. One thing helps the other, and the whole system works better. Alternatively, Dr. Kalogi offered you many sites that have visibility directly to the south, and any of those alternative sites would have overlapping coverage with Powell Butte South, and any one of those towers that were activated would be able to take up capacity from the south, thereby alleviating the pinch points on Powell Butte South. The next slide, please. The other sense here is that one of the key offloading metrics that Mr. Kennedy used to reject some of the alternative sites is this notion of distance. And one key point to understand is that distance is not the sole defining factor that determines the ability to offload, as Mr. Kennedy implies on page 117 of his application, where he states that some towers are just simply too far from Powell Butte South and Wiley to offload. That statement is simply technically not correct, since so long as the coverage areas overlap, there is the ability to offload adjacent towers. So that's the question. And looking towards the capacity issues of Powell Butte South, alternatives 2, 3, 4, and 5 are certainly close enough to offer offload capacity, because they're almost as close as the proposed site, or closer. So clearly, if the proposed site works to offload this capacity, these other sites have to work. So if it's good for the goose, it's good for the gander here. So from a technical standpoint, It's not correct to say that any of the alternative sites cannot provide offload simply because they're too far from existing towers. Any of the 14 towers can provide that capability for Wiley or Powell Butte South or both. If, for example, alternative A and B were to be built, they would have significantly offload a capacity for Wiley at the top. And Wiley could be turned down to the north in the area to Powell Butte South and turn its efforts back to the south to relieve some of that extra capacity. So this is exactly what Verizon's engineer was discussing in the application. He said, you know, we're going to use one tower to help the other tower, and we're going to solve the capacity problem by making this tandem network of towers work together. So Mr. Mahan and I agree that there's really no reason that any number of the alternative sites could not accomplish the same thing as the proposed site. So if it's good for the proposed site, it has to be good for the other sites. So now what I'd like to do is go through, and forgive me if this will be tedious, but I want to address the analysis in the proposal line by line and show you that the logic is just not sound. And so next slide, please. Next slide. So we're going to rebut his analysis. This is a page right out of the application where their consultant analyzes the alternative sites and rejects them for a number of reasons. And I'm just going to go, you know, point by point through these and tell you why that logic is just not sound. Next slide, please. So the first bit here is regarding the conclusion that the proposed site works, but alternatives 1, 2, 4, and 5 do not provide the same or needed coverage. This is from page 117 of the applicant's packet. Next slide, please. So the technical factors that make the proposed site acceptable to applicants for coverage and capacity in their materials also make the alternative site. The coverage is improved in Powell Butte by every alternative site, according to the maps that I've already shown you. So if the coverage is good enough for the proposed site, the coverage is good enough for the alternatives. So that can't be a valid reason. Next slide. So that logic is inconsistent and incorrect. Next slide. The next round of logic is that some of the towers are too close. So what about alternatives 2, 4, and 5 makes them not good because they're too close? Next slide. This is a screenshot from an application anyone can access online. It's called Cell Mapper. You can see where all the towers are and whatnot. These are the Verizon towers in your area. And you can see the proposed site. You can see the alternative sites. You can see their proximity to Powell Butte South and to Wiley Tower, which are the ones in question. And then you can also see how close their other towers are along the corridor, along 97, and in the area now around Prineville. This indicates to me that Verizon not only uses towers that are closely spaced, but that they know how to manage it properly so that they don't cause problems. Next slide, please. So the fact that Mr. Kennedy cites that these towers are too close, that logic just doesn't hold water. It's not a valid reason. There are already towers that are much closer. Next slide. Last bit of the analysis, alternatives 1 and 2 do not provide the offload to the neighbor sites to the south. Next slide, please. Well, right out of the applicant's proposal, Mr. Ferguson, who's Verizon's engineer, says that the proposed site, indicated by the orange X, can offload significant from McCoyne, which is on Grizzly Peak. That's 11 miles away. So if the proposed site can offload McCoyne, why can't alternatives 1 and 3 offload Powell Butte South and Wiley Tower? They can. So that logic is not consistent either. Next slide. You can see by the proximity here, the proposed site offloads well. Alternatives 1 and alternative 3. The proposed site is only 5.5 miles from Powell Butte South. Alternative 3, for example, is only 1 mile further away. The logic doesn't hold. The alternatives will work. They may not work exactly like the proposed site, but they're feasible. They'll work feasibly. Next slide, please. So according to Mr. Mahan and myself, none of Mr. Kennedy's analysis for rejecting the alternatives is technically supported. Those all look technically feasible to us. And that the additional alternative sites proposed by Dr. Kaloji in her testimony in December and outlined in her document will work as well for the same reason. And the burden lies on the applicants to show that this is not so, and they have not met their burden in that regard. Next slide. Getting close to the end. I just want to add one little bit here is that there was a conclusion in their application that said adding antennas to Wiley and Powell Butte South Towers will not provide the power per link or the throughput per link needed to resolve the issue. Next slide, please. The issue is that let me not get ahead of myself. The statement that Mr. Kennedy has says that they will not provide the power per link or the throughput link per link needed to resolve the issue. This is directly out of the proposal. The issue is not defined. The proposal does not identify the power per link or the throughput per link, not defined. And in Mr. Kennedy's testimony before you folks in December, he admitted that he does not have access to the proprietary information of Verizon. So there's no way he could even know whether adding additional antennas to those towers would work. He's not in a position to evaluate that. What would happen if it were successful, that the coverage problem in Powell Butte South, essentially saying that the blue line is too close to the red line, would look more like the Wiley Tower. The blue line would come down below the red line. And that seems entirely feasible to me. So the material and testimony that adding antennas is not feasible for the objective stated is just not supportable technically. In other words, it could well be that adding antennas, especially to Powell Butte itself, could provide quite a nice solution to some of the bottlenecks down there. Next slide, please. Well, like I said, I'm going to hit you with the conclusion first and hit you with the conclusion last. From Mr. Mahan, in my perspective, there are numerous options using the alternative sites that are technically feasible, and that's what the statute demands to meet the coverage capacity objectives identified by the applicants. And they can't be rejected out of hand. And the credibility issues about the data themselves that Dr. Kaloji referenced before she introduced me, they're documented in her written testimony from December, and you can look at the individual technical issues there. So I would invite any questions that you have, and I thank you for your patience and bearing with me as I carried on.
Well, thank you. Do any of the commissioners have any questions?
I do have one. This is George. I find you extremely credible. I find Mr. Mahone credible. I find Verizon's engineer credible. My question is, what is your interest in whether this cell tower goes up or not?
I have no interest in it. I don't live here. Dr. Kaloji, who was an ex-colleague of mine from 15 years ago, knows what my expertise is, and she asked me, could I help? And I'm retired, and everybody needs a hobby.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question. When you were talking about the drive-through data about capacity, and handing off, or what did you call it? Offload
Yes.
information. Can one specific company, for Verizon, for example, use their whatever it is to hand off to other companies to pass things along that need to be passed along? Or are they pretty much limited to their own company's towers?
That's a great question, and I'm not in a position to answer that definitively because I don't know what agreements are in force in this area between the different cell towers. But that is something that the commission could determine by looking at the agreements that exist between the towers to share facilities. There are many companies that share resources, but I don't think like AT&T and T-Mobile are actually sharing with Verizon actively. But that's not a qualified answer. That's my gut intuition.
Okay, thank you. Just for your information, the Planning Commission does not make a point to investigate what one company is doing with another company when we're faced with a land use issue. So
But
the applicant might want to reply.
the applicant, the burden is on the applicant, not on the opposition. Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I have a question. So can you pull the map up? Can you go back a few slides where the map shows the different locations there? So you said alternate 5 had no map supporting it.
Right.
And I was just looking through all the different alternatives. There is a map for alternate location number 5. And my question to you is, and I don't know how to show that other than popping it up on my laptop here, but there you go. It's kind of odd that and maybe you can explain this, but if you look at the proposed site green area versus alternate 5's green area, it only shows the green area being picked up to the east.
Mhm.
Okay.
And is that a directional thing? Is that like you're talking about like turning things up or down? Because alternate 3,
I understand your question perfectly.
like there's some things that don't make sense to me there.
The first thing that you need to do if you have a copy of the original proposal documentation, you'll notice that Mr. Kennedy provides maps for each of the sites on each of the subsequent pages, which
Right.
is good protocol. But the map for site number 4 is exactly the same map as site number 5. So he either made a cut and paste error or
Oh, I see.
calculation error.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
there's no additional data
It's not in
for
here.
site number 5 because
What he's
it's
saying
the same as number 4.
Exactly.
And I would
is
doubt to you.
this map right here. So if you look at the coverage area here on 4,
Yeah.
I think that.
and then, yeah, and then 5, it's the same
Okay,
little deal there.
but here
Uh,
it's definitely.
Mr. Kurtz, if it were for site number 5, which is the middle dot, the
Mhm.
green area would be centered on the middle dot.
Right.
So that is the data from number 4, not from number 5.
Well, and what would drive, like if I look at number 3, for example, why is its green area so much bigger than alternate 4 or 5? Because that,
So let me ask,
I guess my what I'm getting at is wouldn't any particular additional tower create the same additional green space? Or within reason?
so, no.
Okay.
So, the simulations that are provided are the simulations when all of the towers are going.
Okay.
And so it depends how close the tower that's being simulated is to another tower. So one way to think of it is the power density kind of decays as you move away from it. And if you're closer to one of the other towers and you add in more power density, it could be on the shoulder of the other one and bump it up more into the green.
Okay.
If you simulated them without the other towers, then it would be exactly as you said.
Okay,
But what he did is he simulated it for the way that the network will work as a whole.
okay. Thank you.
On the alternate site number one up there, that looks like it's gonna be right along those power lines. Would the,
That's the American Sprint Tower. Is it the Sprint Tower? Yeah. It's the
Okay.
American Sprint Tower. That's an existing tower.
and I just, does the power lines interfere with bandwidth and capacity at all? Just out
No,
of curiosity.
no.
Okay.
No.
Does anybody else have any more questions? Any commissioners?
No.
Okay,
Thanks.
we appreciate
Thanks for
it.
your time.
Thank you.
Okay, next up in line, we have Karen Jones.
Thank you. I'm back still at 1900 Southwest Parish Lane. I'll cede my time. I was going to testify in case we needed extra time for Annette. I was going to cede my time. So thank you.
Commissioner, if I can do some quick housekeeping, if that's okay. So Professor Scheinfein said that Dr. Mahan or Mr. Mahan was adopting his testimony. We would need to get that from Mr. Mahan himself, either written or orally that he, yeah, so.
Okay. So, yeah, so can I ask that Steve Mahone to send in his written testimony to the commission or to staff? That we're asking?
Or he can just get on the line and say, yeah,
Get online to
I adopt.
make a statement? Looks like he's unmuted.
Is he there?
He could even probably just do it in the chat would probably be
Okay.
acceptable.
Oh. Well, Steve, if you could type it in the chat, I'll be good now. Oh, there he is. Steve, can you speak again?
Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Now we can.
All right. Hello from Hawaii. My apologies for not being there. I've worked with Mike on this proposal, and he speaks for me as well as I could do, and maybe a little bit better with his professor background.
That's sufficient?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
we'd also
amen.
need your address.
Oh, my address is 2970 Northeast Lorrie, Lorie Drive, Hillsboro, Oregon, 97124.
Well, thank you. Thanks for being here.
Does he have anything to add? Or did he?
Oh, he's
Okay.
giving his credibility. We good to move on? All right. So next up, we have Crystal Belmrose. I think it's an S.
My name is Crystal Bemrose. I live at 15857 Southwest Twin Lakes Road, Powbutte, Oregon, 97753. Is that all you need for that part?
Yep.
Okay. Dear Commissioners, I'm here to express my verbal objection for this tower on EFU land proposed on Williams Road. Please ask yourselves, was the correct land, non-EFU land, truly ruled out for the right reasons? Or is this Verizon's way to try to save money and go through an easier process of approval by paying a private landowner? We asked at the last hearing, I'm pretty sure one of the commissioners asked at the last meeting, that Verizon present the process/cost analysis of using non-EFU land versus EFU land. And I hope they present that at their continued hearing that they were granted tonight. Secondly, I want to ask everyone to consider, is this tower truly needed? I know one of Verizon's point is that this tower is needed to provide communication services specifically for emergency services, law enforcement, fire, and medical. They have provided no proof that emergency services need or is requesting better services in Powbutte. I work in the emergency service in an emergency service position, and I know the dead spots all over Crook County, and Powbutte is not one of them. I hope Verizon presents true evidence that law enforcement or emergency service needs this tower. I ask, please do not let another business move into Powell Butte and get around the laws and regulations that are set in place for reasons. EFU land is important and we are losing it faster than you can imagine because of large businesses hiring fancy lawyers to get around putting things on the correct land. Again, I feel that the Powell Butte community has made valid points about non-EFU land and Powell Butte has made valid points about non-EFU land that could be used for this tower. I also want to state that I'm both a Verizon for work purposes and AT&T for personal customer, and I have adequate service with both providers. To give you guys a perspective about where I live approximately 2.5 miles west of the proposed site. And again, I have adequate service for work and personal purposes. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, hold on one second. Do we have any questions?
No.
Commissioners?
No.
Okay, well, thank you, Crystal. Next up is Cheyenne Friend. The friend of D.
My name is Cheyenne Friend. I live at 15798 Southwest Twin Lakes Road. I am not currently a customer of Verizon. My husband he is currently out of town. He has Verizon for work purposes. We are neighbors to Crystal and we have good coverage with that cell phone as well. I am opposed to this tower. I have children and I know that this is not necessarily a factor, but I believe that the health factors, including the 5G, is not safe. That is all I have to say. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any questions?
No.
Nope. Thank you. Next up is Jenna McFarland.
I was actually going to cede my time. Do I need to
Nope.
say my name and speak or anything? And
You're
I
good.
just gave a written testimony for today.
Got it. You're good. Thank you. Next up would be Bruce Brown.
Bruce Brown, 4301 Southwest Williams Road, Bellevue. And I want to cede my time to Jennifer or Jenny Hook.
Okay. Jenny Hook. Next will be, let's see, Rayanne Neville.
I'm Rihanna Neville,
Rihanna.
12103 Southwest Wakayakum Street and business owner at 6033 Southwest Williams. And I was ceding my time. Thank you.
Thank you. Next will be David Zalaredo. Salinurdo.
My name's David Zelnardo, 3690 Southwest Williams Road in Powell Butte. And maybe the rumor you heard about the bald eagles came from me. But we live right on the pond that's right next to that tower. And for the last month, and I actually have a photo I took Monday to prove it. But for the last month, we've had a pair of bald eagles doing courtship displays and bringing nest materials in on that tower. And from what I can tell, looking at, I believe it's 81.120010, it's called Important Bird Habitats. And looking through there on the Goal 5 results, that eagle nest is less than a quarter mile from the proposed cell tower site. And according to what I can read in here, there's quite a lengthy set of circumstances that have to be met before that permit can be approved. So I was putting you on notice of that. And actually, I called Greg. So that's probably why you heard from him. The second point I'd like, oh, and by the way, I've been a professional wildlife biologist for 33 years, so I kind of recognize amorous eagles. The second thing I want to point out is that that pond, and because of the habitat improvements I've tried to do, I would wager is the most diverse wildlife habitat in Powell Butte. We've documented over 170 bird species in and around that pond, along with various mammals. According to the Fish and Wildlife Service, cell towers kill annually about 6 million birds through collisions, either at night or low visibility conditions. Most habitats, like a juniper woodland, you can go in there and do an inventory and you may find 20 to 25 different bird species. We've got 170. And with that tower being right there, that's kind of a, I mean, there's better places to put it. Fish and Wildlife Service actually has what they call their best management practices, which they publish to try and meet both the Bald and Golden Eagle Act and the Migratory Bird Treaty Act, both of which prohibit take, in other words, killing of birds. And what the Fish and Wildlife Service says is towers should not be sited in or near wetlands or other known bird concentrations areas. And it says like state or federal refuges, staging areas, and important bird areas, or in known migratory bird movement daily routes, flyways, areas of breeding concentration, in habitat of threatened and endangered species, et cetera. But what they're saying is if you have an opportunity to locate it away from one of those habitats, they can't make you, but they strongly urge you to do that. So again, given alternative sites, I think there's a lot of better places to not kill birds than right next to that pond. The last thing, and I'm no engineer like these guys are, but in looking at Verizon's coverage maps, the one place I consistently can get dropped coverage is driving from Powell Butte to Redmond, just west of West Powell Butte Estates and just before the North Unit Canal. None of those alternatives I saw turned the red to yellow or green. In other words, if Highway 26 is that big of a concern to them, that tower does nothing to improve the one dead spot I get consistently going between Powell Butte, well, actually Prineville and Redmond. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody have any questions? Oh,
No.
Question, please.
okay, David, we have one question. Yep.
You said cell phone towers kill birds. I have not heard that before. Could you
It's
enlighten
actually
me?
pretty well documented. Yeah, they estimate about 6 million a year nationwide.
How do they kill them? I don't.
Collisions. They fly.
Oh, they fly into at night?
And generally at night. And there's a lot of evidence that a lot of these birds, especially when they're migrating, orient electromagnetically, and the radiation coming off those towers actually attracts them into them.
Mm-hmm.
There's different mitigations to it. For instance, a blinking light on a tower will attract, so they say don't put blinking lights on top because that's even worse. But anyway, that's their estimate, 6 million a year.
Thank you.
Oh, any other questions? Nope, thank you. Next up is Cindy Zelenardo.
I'm Cindy Zalinardo, 3690 Southwest Williams Road, Powell Butte. I'm a bird nerd. In the 17 years I've lived on that pond, and I'm within only 1,000 feet of this proposed tower. I'm the closest resident. I document on eBird, as we bird nerds do, everything I see every day, all the birds. And so I printed out and submitted, it's in your packet, I think, on bar chart abundance graph of through the year, all the different species that I've seen. That's just by documenting every day on eBird what's going on. And it validates it's such an important bird area. I think because our pond is so deep that it doesn't freeze in the winter when everybody else does. And in the summer, it can't be used for irrigation, so it stays just as deep. So unlike the other farm ponds, it's a very important place for the birds. That's about all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. 1 second. Any questions for commissioners?
I have a question. There was a picture in the packet from someone's living room or front kitchen window directly to the tower, the proposed tower. Is that your kitchen window?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, it was, it's amazing, like many of the homes around us. We look at the mountains, and the tallest one looking out is Jefferson. And that tower makes it's Jefferson's going to be just from looking out, I went just at the very base of that tower. It's just going to be just this looming mega amazing thing. And we are the lowest place. I mean, it's like the dumbest place to put it.
Hey, I got a question.
Oh,
Hey,
what?
Cindy, I got a
We have a-
question. One more question for you. What you submitted, did you say that's your kind of spreadsheet? Is that what you said?
Does that?
Okay.
No,
Uh,
I wouldn't.
Well, I was gonna say,
It's my data that went in every day. No.
okay, so you submit data to this. I got you. Okay. No, thank you.
Thank you. Next up we have is Ryan McFarland.
Good evening. My name is Ryan McFarland. I live at 2309 Southwest Williams Road, and thank you for giving us all a chance to speak tonight. I'll try not to keep giving you any more redundant information, so my speech is whittled down to not much, but so one of the big things that I would like to bring up is Verizon has stated an intent to co-locate other providers' antennae on this proposed tower. And thus, depending on how much that revenue brings in, they could pay for their tower and in short order, make that a gainful lease for them. So they haven't disclosed that or any future plans for other towers as well. I think that they should make any historical information and lease payments of similar towers known to the public before the Planning Commission can in good faith approve the application. I have a lot more on as to the necessity of the towers, but I, again, will try not to give you any more duplicate information. So I used to be a paramedic before COVID hit, and I got a lot of friends that are in the medical field, and they can all still tell me. In fact, on Wikipedia, you can actually look up the code to get you in to be able to transmit on Crook County Emergency Services. Someone should probably fix that. But it's all analog. So any claims by Verizon that says that they will help emergency services in Pale Butte, simply untrue. And to the effect that anybody, you'll have to forgive me, I'm not the best public speaker. So if you want to be able to call 911, you could turn off the cell data on your phone right now and it'd go into SOS mode, which means that you're going to be able to connect to any tower. So George, to answer your question earlier, even if you are out in the BLM there, which trust me, nobody wants to go out there. I grew up riding dirt bikes out in that BLM area, and I can tell you with all the homeless folks that are out there, how trashed it is. It's a travesty. So if you do want to go out there, you'll still have SOS, which means that you will connect to any tower that your phone is within reach of, and you'll be able to call 911. So I don't see any benefit for this tower to emergency services. So this tower is also proposed to help with the offload of towers. It's clogged at peak times. I'm just curious. So could Verizon give us records and timeframes of this actual overload to traffic? I mean, did this data start when Facebook moved in and we had 1,000+ workers in the area? Or like within the last year when we had 200+ at the solar farm? We have a lot more commuters nowadays too, so I would love to know when the bad reception started or is happening, so. So I would just, I know we're supposed to stay on topic about, you know, what actually can be fought, what avenue this can be fought on, but I would just appeal to you guys as a father. I have 2 boys, they homeschool. I work at home. I'm gonna see this thing outside my living room every day. Would any of you like to expose your children to that much RF day in, day out? I appreciate your time. Thank you, guys.
Commissioners,
Any
do
questions?
you have any questions?
No.
Oh, thank you. Next up is Jenny Hook.
I'm Jenny Hook. I live at 3367 Southwest Williams Road, Pal Butte. I'm right across the street at my driveway. I'm here today to ask the planning commissioners to deny Verizon's placement of the Ditch Rider Tower on Williams Road. I submitted a letter today that is more detailed with regards to why I believe Verizon has not proven their objectives. It is way too much to read in my 5 minutes. Verizon submitted their application stating they would improve capacity along Highway 126 between Prineville and Redmond and expand coverage to Pal Butte. Then in the middle of their application, they changed to increasing capacity in Pal Butte, which was not the original goal. One of Verizon's experts states we have poor service. The other one states we have good to excellent service, and that our network hasn't reached the point of overcapacity. The area in question is where I live. You know, that area when you're driving to Redmond on Highway 126 and you can see all the way to Smith Rock, all those gorgeous green fields full of hay, dotted with livestock. It's EFU land. It won't be growing in population. You're not going to build any more homes there. Nobody wants them. The area they want to increase capacity, according to their application, is along Highway 126. And that area can be improved by using other locations, such as their alternate Site 1, the American Tower. It greatly improves the highway and the area shaded by Pal Butte itself. It improves coverage. Oh, and it improves coverage in Pal Butte. In fact, coverage extends over the hill towards the airport and businesses. If you look on that green goes to the east. So it's doing even more than what they planned for the highway with regards to capacity. Please listen to the people of Pal Butte. We are all happy with what we have. There are other ways to improve service, not just this way. You can see in the paperwork that Verizon is justifying using their own tower so they don't have to pay to use someone else's tower. Other sites will work or meet the objective. While you're not supposed to take the following into consideration, how can you not? The deer that eat in that field, like just last night, the birds, the eagles that are nesting, the health hazards, the devaluation of our properties, all of this will be affected. The fact that this tower application has been full of holes from the start proves that they want what they want without regard for the county laws and the public's wishes. They are looking for profit. I know this has been a long hearing, lots of technical stuff, but this will not be the last tower you will deal with, so you will all be better prepared for the next.
Thank you.
Oh.
Thank you.
Do any of the commissioners have any questions?
No.
Well, thank you. And the last one I have is Nicole Onko.
Sorry for the late entry. Those are new from my last meeting, but I'm Nicole Ontko. I live at 31000 Northeast Ochoco Ranger Station Road in Prineville. And I'll just speak to my wheelhouse. Some of it will be redundant, some of it might be new, but I'm gonna peek at my notes once in a while as well, so I don't get off track. So I'm a 5th generation cattle rancher here in Crook County, and I've also been a nationally certified paramedic for the last 13 years. I've actually worked in this county as an EMT for the first 3 years of my service with the fire department. And in that time, we never had any issues. I've worked all over the U.S. as a paramedic since then, and I currently work in Harney County. I work in 911. I am a paramedic down there active. I don't know if you guys know this, but Harney County is about 3 times as big as Crook County, and we have a hell of a lot more spots without cell coverage. With that, I've already spoken personally to our Crook County 911 dispatchers. There's no grievance filed against them, and they have no known issues for 911 services. And that's directly from the horse's mouth. You can contact 911 no matter if you have cell service or not. You can text to 911 for those of you that didn't know that. You can make those phone calls without places in cell service, and it will pinpoint us in an area small enough that we will find you. Whether it be us, law enforcement, SAR, whoever it may be, we will find you. In my 13 years of doing this job, I've probably only had maybe 10 UTLs, which is a term in our world, unable to locate. And there's never been anything further on those calls that say somebody came forth and said, I called 911 and they didn't come and they weren't there. Somebody either eventually found them and it was nothing, or it was nothing to begin with. I'm just going to glance at my notes a little bit here. Speaking to the EFU land in Powell Butte, for those of you that don't know, ranchers and farmers and agriculture in general, we make up less than 1% in the U.S. In that EFU land, also for the record, majority of ranchers only have about 47 head. Like that's the average amount of cattle that people own that provide food for America. We've run about 40 to 50 head on our ranch for the last 5 generations. It's what we can sustain on our acreage. Most places in Powell Butte, with the exception of a few, probably are also only running about that many head of cattle. Not to mention too, like if you are in an area that doesn't have service, most of the time what can happen too is COIDC gets contacted, that Central Oregon Interagency Dispatch Center. They're the ones that do the wildland stuff. They're out of Redmond, but what happens when you call 911 without service is it connects to a PS, it's a public safety answering point basically, and it goes to the nearest point. And then say you are out in Powell Butte and you call and it gets put over into Deschutes County, they still have the ability to look at where you are and then transfer that call accordingly to the right people so the right people show up to you. Not to mention too, cell service was created in 1983. That wasn't that long ago. And 911 services were created in the 1960s. So if you look at the majority of people in this room, I think majority of them would say they live just fine without cell phone coverage. Probably some of them still have landlines, or they function without it at all. 911 services is not an issue in Powell Butte, and it's really not an issue anywhere. We can still get to those people. I assure you of that. And not only that, nearly 30% of 911 calls are only true emergencies. Nearly 40% are accidental calls or not true emergencies at all. And for those of you that have iPhones, nearly 40% increase in 911 call volume comes from you dropping your phone. Some of you may find that funny. We find it a nuisance because when we're out in the middle of nowhere looking for somebody that's dropped their phone, somebody else in cardiac arrest might be calling us and we can't go. On top of that as well, yeah, nearly 40% of the calls are accidental. You can find a lot of that information on the NIH website, as well as other local 911 forums. You can find it anywhere specific to your area, your state. And then speaking to like the 5G, the FCC, which is the Federal Communications like Center or Commission, they have multiple lawsuits against them for the 5G coverage because these towers in bigger cities are around schools, too close to homes. Back in the day when all we had were radio towers and a few cell phone towers when they got introduced, they were out in the middle of nowhere. So they weren't near people, they weren't near occupants, they weren't near schools, they weren't near people's homes. And with that, people weren't really getting exposed to that EMF exposure. You can think what you want about it, but when the actual FCC has lawsuits against them that they are ignoring, to me, that's a red flag.
Nicole, I just want, you're at your, over your 5 minutes now, so.
I copy.
Yeah.
You guys have any questions?
Commissioners, any questions?
No.
No.
No, thank you.
So for the record, I oppose it.
Got it. So won't be doing an applicant rebuttal since we're doing a continuance, right?
You can ask him.
Would the applicant like to rebuttal?
No, that's okay. We'll address issues in our.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yep. So from here, I guess I'll skip this part,
I think
right?
it's kind of weird, yeah, since you guys already made the
Yeah.
motion to continue.
We will end up to continue the hearing to a date and time certain. That part.
We've done that.
Or so I want to, because we're just doing a continuance on a date and time. Did we figure it out? Was it February 11th?
February 11th at 4 o'clock.
Or okay, so there's a potential motion to continue the hearing to a date and time certain for additional testimony or deliberation only. If there is sufficient evidence in the record.
Chair Newworth, we don't need to do any
You
of
don't
that.
need to do that.
Yeah, we're good. So basically we can just,
We already did the motion, keep
Yeah.
skipping through it. Let's keep the record. Okay. Deliberations. Where do we, let's go right down to the bottom. Yeah. So we'll go to community development updates, upcoming meeting dates. These are where we're at.
Yeah, I think so.
So community development updates. The next hearing or our next meeting is the 25th, 28th. And we have 3 applicants for the open planning commission member position. And we will hold interviews at the 28th meeting. If any of you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to staff. We're going to turn the alarm off on the building real quick. Hold on.
Katie, what else is on the 28th?
We're going to do our yearly work plan and decision list where we go through and revisit some of the decisions. If the planning commission would like to hear them on ones that have discretion being able to be heard by the planning commission. We also, Hannah, do you know if we have anything else for the 28th other than the work plan and the decision list? Probably go over some script questions. If there are any questions on how that's going, kind of feedback for staff, be able that we can maybe hone that in a little bit, along with maybe the way we do some things. Do we have any updated numbers on how the year-end numbers or anything, John?
Katrina's finalizing that, I think, for the December numbers.
Okay, so we could have that for community development updates. There's not a hearing scheduled for that. So the next hearing will be the continuance of this February 11th. We have some other larger applications coming in that we will be this spring.
Yeah, you can ask him maybe.
If you guys can please keep your voices down and unless you're outside the room, the meeting's still going on. Thank you.
Thank you.
The reason I asked, and maybe it's just because it's always done that, but when you look at that on the calendar, it has the same agenda as today.
Currently.
When you go to the 28th, the meeting of the 28th, and you look,
It has today's agenda.
has today's agenda.
It's really planning ahead that far.
Yes.
Part of the meeting.
Sorry, I mean, that's why.
Okay, yeah, no, that's not the agenda that we have, our draft agenda for that. It's our code, has us go through that housekeeping planning commission yearly stuff. The first meeting in January, this is the first meeting in January, the 25th will be for our first opportunity to go through all of that.
28th.
Did I say the 25th again? Oh my gosh, the 28th. 2 weeks from today. We're still just working applications coming in.
We're talking about the ones coming up. We got Hidden Canyon.
We have phase 1 subdivision of Hidden Canyon.
We have 2 aggregate applications coming your way eventually. I'll also add, I presented before the budget committee yesterday, and so we did have the 6-month fiscal year numbers for community development department. I'm very relieved and happy to report that we're doing pretty well this year. So we'd been on a downtrend over the last couple of years. We got some influx with the data center money that kept our department going. We've been eating through that reserve, but this year, I think thanks to Hidden Canyon and the apartment complexes and the Oppet and data center, we're looking nice and healthy. So there's no immediate concerns there. And we're on track with our work plan, and we are later on this week and I think start moving forward with that Goal 5 update. Ann has been out of town, so.
Is there any update on the TSP stuff when anything might actually, like when they might actually do work or when they're scheduling or planning?
It's a very good question. So the TSP is just a planning document. The issue, lots of stuff, it comes down to money, right? And so it didn't change the county's treasure chest. And so we're still in a position where there is not really funding to get moving a lot of this stuff. I know that Commissioner Hermrek is kind of pounding the table for especially that Powell Butte 126 intersection. And then that's the next round of STIF, which is the ODOT funding, is happening. I'm going to get on that. Is that a PAC or what was that?
Yeah.
Our voice will be heard there. They've already, we've already been talking to them. And then, as you will see, there was part of the Hidden Canyon approval originally was a contribution there to that intersection. That'll be a discussion we'll have in the future. But and then, so the point of the TSP, not the point, but one of the objectives of the TSP was to establish the necessary basis for us to then move forward towards implementing STC, system development charges, which is one of the means through which we could start funding these improvements. That's kind of a long process getting it set up. And then once it's set up, the money has to start coming in. And then you have enough money, then you can start improving a project. And so that's not a near-term solution. It's going to be either local improvement districts or ODOT coming in or Hidden Canyon changing the landscape. So not moving as fast as I would like.
Yeah.
We're trying.
Thank you. Any more questions, guys?
We also have, I just want to give you an update for the code amendments. So John presented those with an initial public hearing at the Board of County Commissioners. And the second public hearing for that will be next Wednesday. So you're, what did we took out?
Took out the manufactured
We took out the manufactured dwelling stuff. We're gonna look at that and probably bring that back again. We had some questions come up after it left Planning Commission, before it got to the Board of County Commissioners, that made us scratch our heads. So we're gonna put some more thought into that and come back.
Is that about the dates on them?
Kind of, yeah.
George, were you gonna raise your hand?
I just wanted to make a comment. I really like the civic portal way of doing things with all these documents, especially for this one. Let's not go back to the mega file approach. And I was just wondering, I know you can like create an account in the civic portal. Is there any benefit to us to do that?
What you're looking at now is the public portal.
Mhm.
There's also a commissioner portal that we may look at if you're interested. You can take internal notes in it
That'd be nice.
that are only viewable to you and or maybe public records requests.
Right.
That, but so that's something we can.
When you say public portal, how do you, I was trying to, how, besides having it at the link, are you always going to have it at the bottom? Are you going to have that packet update?
Well,
Or how does the public access it?
so it's not technically public yet.
Oh, okay,
It's-
okay.
We broke it with how many exhibits we had, so it wasn't our intention yet to have that be public, but we had no choice. Because the packet got too big and we could not upload it to the website with the PDF size.
I agree with George though. I mean, this is way better.
So the intent down the line, our county manager, Will Van Vactor, is going to do a press release and help get the public more informed about what the public portal is going to look like, what they can do, how they can use it. So we kind of skipped ahead a little bit. So that'll be forthcoming. The Board of Commissioners, many other boards and committees are going to be using the same public portal. And then eventually it's going to be more integrated into our website as well, but that's down the line.
Looking at that portal, when you've got your different agendas and then you've got everything listed out, is there a way to put like a little break in there that says, you know, hey, this is where our last meeting was. Here's where you've kind of seen everything from the last meeting, and then, or is that just kind of?
This is I would
makes
like
sense.
to say this is a one-off, but
Okay.
I mean, this may multiple continuances may be the way of our future. So that's something we can look at. To my knowledge, I can't break up the packet, but I could add in the blank document or something. Maybe.
That's what I was wondering, a blank
Yeah.
document that said,
We can look at something like
if it was
that, yeah.
continued.
Yeah.
This is, and most of these are not, I want to say repetitive, but they had their own form, so they could all,
Yes,
so I mean,
a 1 and a 2.
yeah.
That's how I kept track.
Yeah. Yeah, and if you guys have any questions, and Mike, I want to look when we're done. I want to look at your screen and see what you're talking about with the agenda, because it's not what I see on my end. So
Oh, really?
I'll come look. When
Okay.
We're done.
Okay. So I guess we can call for a motion to end the meeting.
I'd make
So moved.
Yeah.
Second.
Okay. The written minutes will reflect the end of the meeting at 6:12.
And vote.
We got to vote.
You gotta vote. First, I want to bring up just the approval of the minutes before at the beginning of the meeting. I think Katie found maybe a way through that. It's, we didn't have it was only on the first set of minutes, right? The second set of minutes, we had a 4-3. The first set, we had 3 with 4 abstentions, so we did not have a majority of the votes. Katie, what did you find?
So there's not, there's 2 areas in Oregon Revised Statutes that talk about meeting minutes, and well, there's one that talks about meeting minutes. There's another one that talks about a quorum and voting. There's nothing that says that you have to have, that you have to vote individually on meeting minutes. They are a representation of that meeting. You do, commission members do not necessarily, they don't have to be present at that meeting to vote on the minutes. The minutes are a representation of that meeting. Okay. You also didn't even need to be on the committee to be like, you didn't have to be a commissioner during that time. It is, the minutes are a reflection of the meeting that they are, and that they are available, and that they include certain things. So one of the things that we can do moving forward, we can bring we can bring that back to the next meeting, those minutes, and have minutes be a consent item. And then it's just, if it's on the consent agenda, you've read them, they represent that meeting, it's a consent, you're approving that. If there are things that need to be corrected on the minutes, you can note that, and it's still on a consent agenda item. So that is one way that we can address it, and we'll just add those March minutes back onto a consent agenda piece is one of the options. So there we go.
Let's do consent agendas.
Yeah,
for that.
Yeah.
that's,
I'll make it easy.
Okay.
how many applicants? For,
Three.
are any of them in this room?
Yes.
I thought so.
So, John, do you remember Monty Kurtz, Adam Mikulski, and Ken Smith?
Monty has to, because he's a pro town.
Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I thought the last time I had a vacancy, the first pro tem just automatically moved up.
I think we made it to where they did have to, right?
Yeah. Didn't we?
No, we made it so.
Yeah, they had to,
Open
they
it up.
interviewed and were selected, appointed.
During the last one, Laquita, we asked during the interview process if they would to move their application forward to that open
Yeah.
position.
Yeah.
So, and
Rita, you didn't vote for me.
staff. So, as staff, we did a meet and greet with all three. Well, we've met with Monty, but we've did a meet and greet and answered any questions with the other two applicants, and they are aware of the interviews to be at the 28th meeting. So.
Okay.
Now do I call for a motion? Okay. Call for a motion for the end of the meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. The written minutes will reflect the end of the meeting after we vote.
Oh.
It's not in here.
Aye,
Keep
aye,
forgetting
aye.
about that.
Aye.
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 Aye. Written minutes will reflect the ending of the meeting at 6:16 p.m.